Okay, welcome to Accounting 260 B, A. Um, so first of all, today we're going to go over some of the things that are going on. Then we're going to go over some of the specific things to my class. Um, and then we're going to go into a lecture. So first of all, as you know, right now the plan is for the college to be remote until January 29th. So we're going to be doing this for the next 5 meetings. Does everybody understand that? Can everybody hear me? So first of all, even those who had me last semester, I've changed. I think I've improved things a little bit, but that's up to you guys. I'm going to show you what some of the changes that I made. So here is the Canvas module. Can everybody see that? So I'm going to put the syllabus right here where I'm pointing. When I get it done. So you have lecture one, which was Martin Luther King's birthday. So obviously there was nothing there. So today's the first day, which is lecture 1B on January 19th. So you could either go by the lecture 1B or the date of the set on the thing. Each class has its own module. So each class has its own materials. For the classes that are virtual, there'll be a link to the virtual, which will be the top. All you have to do is, if you want to, all you have to do is click on that. Then the next thing that's going to be there is the topic that we're going to be talking about. Then the slides, all the slides, which was something that I kind of neglected last semester. This semester, I'm going to really try to stay on top of that. So you'll have all the slides to the lectures before a day before the lectures are happening. You'll have access to the to this class to the upcoming class a day before the class actually happens. So if you wanted to look at the lectures, so if you want to look at the lectures, there's also something new here this semester. I'm actually giving you. Last semester, I was handing out all kinds of handouts, and I think that was information overload. So what the student notes things are those things that I want you to know from the class. So this is the equivalent of those students who had me last semester. This is the equivalent of the handouts that I gave you last semester. So now they're all going to be neatly put into a PowerPoint slide. And then the handouts itself that I'm using like any assigned class that we're going to any work that we're going to do in class, like class assignments, will be downloadable here. So far, okay? So the next section is additional learning resources. So I spend a lot of time on YouTube looking at videos and other, and well, not just YouTube, but the internet, looking for videos that might help you understand topics that may be confusing to you. So, for example, if I didn't do a good job of accounting transactions, this this video from YouTube, for example, may explain it in a different way than I do, and it might work for you. So anytime I find those type of things, I put it in these additional learning resources. So these are things you don't have to look at if you don't want to. If you want to, they're there to help you. And during the semester, as I find things, I'll attach them to the section that I talk about those things. So if you're okay with the lecture and everything's cool and you don't have time because of homework or whatever, and you're everything's all right, you don't have to watch these. These are there. If you're having trouble understanding something, maybe this will help you understand a little better. These are from other people, not me. Well, most of the time they're from other people, not me. And it's just a different way of explaining things. I have my way of explaining things, but that might not work for everybody. So these are things that you can use to maybe help you. Then the next section is all your homework assignments. Now, since this is going to be available to you a day before, you can get started on it if you feel comfortable. It's up to you. Some of these are quizzes. What I do is I use quizzes because number one, you can get an immediate reaction to them. So I think that's actually a valuable tool in learning process. So you're taking like a quiz and and you think there's an answer correct, but and there's an immediate explanation for it. These homework, what I call homework quizzes, don't count as much, don't count for anything about your grade. It's more of a learning tool. And I'll go over how the grades are going to work in a second. And then the last section is any quizzes or tests we're going to have. So like I said, this is the breakdown of the work. This will be also in the syllabus. They do you for this class. And this will be explained more in the syllabus. So here are the weights to everything. So I put a lot of weight on the exams and finals because that's the proof to me that you know what you're talking about. 70% of your grade is going to be based on that. As you can see, here's the homework quizzes. They're only 4%. And you can take those quizzes anytime, as many times as you want. You're up to 3 times. And it's more of a learning process. And that might be reduced by the time I get the syllabus down. I'm debating whether to make that more penalty or not, more of a penalty or not. But that would just raise something else because I got to get to 100. So I think in my mind, the quizzes are really an easy way for you to get an A because you just keep taking it until you get an A. And your highest score counts. So if you wanted to take the thing 3 times, awesome. I used in the term, I used in this case, I use the term quizzes as more of a learning tool than as a testing tool. Surprise quizzes are quizzes that I'm going to give you in class. So I will actually, at the beginning of the class, I will actually have a quiz for you. It's usually very simple, 10 questions or 5 questions, usually stuff that we went over last semester, or stuff that I want you to know. So if you keep up on the notes, and it's always based on the notes, so if you keep up on the notes, you should be fine. I consider that an easy 2% too. Homework is just homework you have to do. Homework you have to do. And then the special projects at the middle of the term, once we finish chapter 2, I give you a project where you're actually going to be doing the accounting for a company. And I walk you through it. I have these sessions where I walk you through it. So that's an easy 10%. So again, the most difficult part of this class is the 70% that final and exams count for. So if you do 100% of this and you get 70% of the exams and final correct, if you get a score of 70 on it, you're going to pass. That's the way the class is designed. 70% of 70 is 49, and then the rest of these points give you a equal 30, and you'll get a 79 or an 80 in the class. So all you really have to show me is that you have 70% of the content. You understand 70% of the content. Actually, you only have to show me that you know 70% of 70% of the content. And again, that'll give you 49 points because 70 times 70 is 49. And then the rest of this is 30. So if you do everything here, special project, the homework, blah, 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 and you get a 70 on the exams, you passed. Even if you get a 60 on the exams, you passed. Anything below that, I really can't. So 50% of 70% is 35, and another 30 is 65. That puts you in the D range. Is everybody following what I'm saying? Any questions? All right, that's a little wordy. Did everybody get what I just typed? Let me read it to you. I'm sorry. I cannot type. And when I try to type fast, I make a lot of mistakes. So, yes, the syllabus will provide the specific date to the test. We're going to go over the syllabus in a second. If I change the date of a test, I will announce it immediately as soon as I make that decision. And you'll be giving a new date. So the dates of the syllabus are not concrete. They can change, but you will be aware of the changes as soon as I become aware of the changes. And the reason we would change is because we're not going fast enough, or maybe we're going too fast. I have certain points where I want to test you, and I've just estimated by the by the layout of the course when we're going to get to that and how much time I'm going to need to cover that information based on history. I've done this class quite a lot. But every class is different. So it may turn out that you take a little bit longer in one area. If I'm seeing that you're not getting it, I'm not going to test you. So I'll push it back a little bit and try to rearrange my layout a little bit. Okay, so talking about the syllabus, here's the syllabus. Can everybody see that? I'm getting no no's, so. Okay, so this is classic syllabus. This will be available by Monday. Gives you my contact information. The best way to contact me is via email. I really don't pay attention to my cell phone all that often. You'll also have some times, office time. But this semester, since I figured out how to put a virtual class into the Canvas, there'll be times when I am actually going to hold virtual help sessions. For those of you who are athletes and things like that, or you just, have a job when have open class in my office time. So those will be probably late in the afternoon or at night. And what I'll do is I'll put a link into the Canvas webpage. And you'll be able to just click on the link and get to the help session. I couldn't do that last semester because WebEx was not connecting to Canvas. Here's the textbooks and everything, all the necessary stuff, the grading stuff, what we're covering, number of assessments, what chapters we're going to cover, the semester project that I talked about. So here's where you're going to find out about the tests. So here is a day-to-day breakdown of the semester, every class. And this will mirror, for the most part, Canvas. And when I plan on making a test, so it'll be in red. So let's say I'm going to do a test here. It's not. They'll say test, chapters 1, 2, and 3, and all that will be in red. Nothing will be here. And it will just say test, chapters 1, 2, and 3. So that's how you'll know when there's going to be a test. And again, I'll tell you when I change that. For those of you also who had me last semester, I am changing the way I'm doing homework. So you can still hand in homework late. There's not going to be any limit to the time you can hand in homework. It's just that your grade drops. And the reason for this, last semester I wasn't giving you the answers. This semester, I'm trying to give you the answers as quick as possible so you can check your work, so it doesn't take a week before I get the homework back to you and then you've forgotten all the work. As you can see in the modules, the answers to the modules are going to be there are explanations to the answers. No, they will not just have the answers. Either I will write an explanation or I will use the explanation from the publisher. so far, I've been happy with the publisher's explanation. If you guys find that they're inaccurate, not inaccurate, but they're insufficient, let me know. I need that feedback from you. So if you're not happy with their explanations, let me know. Right now, I've looked over all the explanations from them that I'm using, and they seem okay to me. They seem like a good, clear-cut explanation, but that doesn't mean that they won't be confusing to you. Does that make sense? So let me know if one of my explanations is not understandable, then let me know that also. Again, I've written I wrote my explanation. For a friend, I developed test questions for a CPA exam. So I was basing the way I explained answers on the way we did that in the CPA exam. And it seemed like a really good way to do it. But again, this is for you to learn. So if you're not getting what you need to get out of the explanations, let me know. Right now, I'm thinking they're okay. But again, I'm looking at it from my perspective. And part of my perspective is I know the stuff already. I mean, that's why you'd be kind of scared and angry if I didn't know what I was doing. So you guys got to provide me feedback if you're having trouble understanding the explanation. So what's going on here is you have a homework assignment. And for example, the solutions here, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the solutions are going to be right under, and it's going to be after the due date, right after the due date, where you're going to be able to see it. So you're going to be able to match your answers with what the solutions are. And then again, feel free to ask any questions you want in class or come to me. I mean, this doesn't eliminate the fact that I still want to help you. I'm just trying to get you the answer as soon as I physically can. So it's a learning process. One of my issues when I was in college with homework was I had to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the professor to get back to me, and I forgot what my questions were. So I'm trying to give you the information as soon as I possibly can, and hopefully that makes you a learning thing. So these quizzes, again, you can take them as many times as you want until you get an A. That's what most students do, and the answers are right there. And then again, if you have a question, we'll be glad to go over it. This might be unique to other professors, but I actually use some of the problems in the textbook that have solutions in the book. And when I do that, you're not going to see one of these. It's going to say it's going to tell you to go and look at it's going to tell you to go and look on page X of the textbook. I do that again as a learning process. You're getting immediate. The feeling is that if you get immediate feedback, you understand better what you did wrong. So if the solutions are not here, look in the assignment explanation, and that will tell you where the answers are. Looking for one now. See here, it says solutions are provided on whatever page of your textbook. Now, I'm hoping you don't jump to the solutions and do that. If you do, that's your business. The idea behind me is, no, I'm not stupid, but the idea behind me doing this is you're getting instant feedback on the answer. So the process would be you work out the problems, think about it, and then look at the answer and say, okay, I went wrong here, I went wrong here, my thinking was wrong, whatever. And I think that's a valuable learning tool. Any questions?
Are the questions you send on the email, the 6 questions, are those the homework that are on here?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that gentleman got that. Um, those are the questions that I gave you. So if you want to answer them from the email, that's fine. If you have the correct textbook, they're on that page.
Oh, okay.
Somebody
Thank
sent me an email saying they couldn't find the questions. Now, I'm not sure if that person had the wrong book or whatever. And I just thought if that was a problem for one person, it's a problem for a lot of people. So if you want to just paste those out of the email, and yes, I emailed the questions. Thought I did. Edgar, did you not get them? Oh, okay. So those are the same questions that are in the textbook on the page that's indicated. Again, somebody just emailed me and said, didn't know where the questions were, so I got concerned that everybody else was gonna have that problem. A lot of times your professor assumes that one person speaks up, the other people are just afraid to speak up. And that happens a lot in class. So you just assume that everybody has that problem if one person has the problem, just to be safe more than anything else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the lecture. So the lecture is going to come right off of here. You just saw what I did to get the lecture. And these will be available both when we do classes live, face to face, and when we do classes not live, like this. Can anybody see the PowerPoints? Okay, so identify the form of the business organization, the use of accounting information, identify the users of financial information, identify and understanding where all accounting starts. I don't know how far we're going to get with this. So in accounting, we talk a lot about business organizations. And in some of your other business classes, you're going to be talking about that also. So there are really three main types of business organizations that you're going to need to understand as a business person. All of you are majoring either in accounting or business or some related form of business. So a sole proprietorship is simply a business owned by one individual. Most of the businesses you see on Popular Avenue and stuff are sole proprietorships. Some person decided to open up their own business, put out a sign, Joe's printing shop or Joe's auto repair service, something like that. A sole proprietorship is owned by one person, and that person is the company in this case. There's going to be a differential in a couple of minutes, so there's a reason I said that specifically the way I said it. So Joe Smith is Joe's printing company in this case. And most of the businesses that you're going to see in the world in your life are sole proprietorships. All you have to do is stick out a sign and say, I want to provide goods or services to somebody. So the owner has complete control of the business. It's the easiest business form of organization to set up, meaning all I have to do is put out a sign. In some states, I have to file paperwork with the government, with the state government, but in a lot of United States, we don't. And as I said, it's the most common form of business organization. But there's one owner. Since it's one owner, there's limited investment. Whatever that person who owns the business has to put in the business are all the resources of the business. So if you have $10,000 saved up to start a business and you want to start a business, once you go through that $10,000, business is gone, is dead. It can't go on anymore because it doesn't have any more resources. A partnership is a business owned by two or more people, persons associated as partners. Usually each partner brings a skill. Now there's more resources because now let's say you and a friend want to form a business and you decide to form a partnership and each one of you can put $10,000 in. Now you have $20,000 worth of resources instead of the $10,000 we used earlier. But once that $20,000 is gone, the business dies. So as you can tell, as I'm saying that a sole proprietorship and a partnership don't have unlimited life. You really can't sell any more ownership in your company. You can't really do anything to raise capital or money except keep borrowing. And once your resources for borrowing are exhausted, you're done. There's also some legal deficiencies in the sole proprietorship. For example, if you use your house to finance your personal house to finance the business, somebody who sues you can pierce that corporation and take away your house. So, for example, my wife has a cousin who ran a bedding store in Virginia, and at first she used her personal house, to finance the business. And what would have happened if something would have happened, a child would have fell and she would have got sued, those people could have taken her house away from her. So what we did was we formed the next form of a business, a corporation, to protect her. Now, a corporation is defined as a business organized as a separate legal entity that is owned by stockholders. So a corporation is a completely separate entity, and this is why I said for sole proprietorship that Joe Smith is Joe's printing shop. In the case of a corporation, Joe Smith is separate from Joe's printing shop. They are two different beings. They are two different entities. For a partnership, each one of the partners is that business. So sole proprietorship and partnership are the same in that regards. A corporation is separate. So you can't think of Joe Smith and Joe's printing shop as being the same thing. And because of that, Joe can sell ownership to Joe's printing shop to other people and get more resources. So Joe only owns a little bit of the business. And he can sell part of his ownership to raise more money in a corporation. So a corporation has an unlimited life because Joe and his children and grandchildren can keep selling the business, parts of the business if they want to. So the corporation is a separate legal entity. That's what I'm talking about. Joe Smith and Joe's printing shop are separate entities. You got to think of them as two separate people, two separate entities. And in that case, since a person doesn't own the corporation, it's easy to transfer ownership. There's also reduced legal liability because somebody who wants to sue the corporation can only sue the corporation. They can't sue the owner. So Joe Smith has a printing company. Somebody gets hurt in the printing company, and that person sues Joe's printing company. They can't come after Smith's personal assets. It's a separate entity for accounting purposes. We'll get into that a lot more later. And there must be a chart. It's more costly to create because there must be a charter and legal documents that are necessary. Is everybody with me so far?
Ajá, sí dijo bien.
I'm not seeing anything.
Anoche ya no pude, no soporté, no pude. No podía dormir, me desperté por eso.
So as a business person, there are reasons why you might form a sole proprietorship or partnership or a sole proprietor or a corporation, depending on what your plans are to do. Now, the terms stockholder and shareholders are used interchangeably, especially by me. So if I refer to stockholders, that's the same as shareholders. These are people who simply own the stock of the corporation, are called stockholders or shareholders. And stock is called a share or stock. The shareholders or stockholders of a corporation have the following rights. So let's go back to Joe Smith creating a corporation called Joe's Printing. If Joe's Printing goes out of business, the corporation, because it doesn't have profits or whatever, then that's called liquidation. When you liquidate a corporation, it's simply to end its life. And all shareholders, whether it's related to Joe Smith or not, get to share in the assets up to their percentage. So if Joe Smith creates Joe's Printing and then he sells, picture him selling 5% to each one of you, or 2% to each one of you. So there are approximately 20 people in the class. So he's sold 40% of the business and he owns 60% of the business still. So let's say the business runs into hard times and all of you and Joe elect to liquidate the corporation. You decide that the corporation is not something you want to be involved with anymore. You have the right to share in the assets of Joe's Printing up to the percentage of your share. So each one of you, I think I gave 2%. So each one of you would have the rights to 2% of the assets of Joe's Printing Company. You also have the right to sell your shares to anybody you choose. Joe Smith, if you buy 2% of Joe's printing company, Joe Smith can't tell you who to sell your shares to. So let's say you have a friend, Billy, and Joe Smith hates Billy. He can't come up to you and say, don't sell your shares to Billy. You have the right to sell your shares to anybody you want to. And you also have the right to vote in the election of the board of directors. So the board of directors are the people, the owners coalition or a coalition of owners that run the business. So they're above the president of the company. And they're elected by the owners. So each one of you would have a vote, 2 votes, in who you want to be on the board. So there are 20 of you. You constitute 40 votes, and Joe Smith has 60 votes. Obviously, Joe Smith is going to get who he wants. But you do have the right to put you. So if you all of you got together and say, I don't want who Joe Smith wanted on the board. Let's say Joe Smith wanted Jane Doe to be the board on the board, and you guys don't. All of you don't want that to happen. You can put your 40 your 40 votes together and vote no. Of course, Joe, who has 60 votes, still gets his way, but you have a say in who is on the board of directors. So the easiest to raise capital, what would that be? Anybody have an idea?
Wouldn't it just be like your
It
own?
would be a corporation because I can sell ownership. How about owners have no legal liability behind investment in company? Again, that is a corporation. Because remember, a corporation is separate from its owners. It can't be sued. Just think of my wife's cousin. Allows the transference of ownership. Again, a corporation. Sole proprietorship and a person is the same thing. Joe Smith is Joe's printing shop. If Joe Smith and Tom Smith created a partnership, they would be Joe and Tom Smith partnership. Requires no legal documents to establish. That would be a sole proprietorship. And when the owner dies, the business is ceased. It's also a sole proprietorship. Because remember, the owner is the business. Does anybody have any questions? Did I go too fast?
Can you just explain again really quick why it's easier to raise money as a
What?
corporation? Can you just explain really quick about why
Sorry,
it's
I can't
easier?
hear you.
You still can't hear me? I'll just type it in.
I'm going to make it louder. Hold on. Can't get this up. Okay, could you type it in the chat room? Oh, okay. Because a corporation is not the same as Joe Smith. Joe Smith, if it's sole proprietorship, Joe Smith is the corporation. So a person can't sell themselves or sell ownership of themselves. So Joe Smith, being a sole proprietorship, has nothing to sell. But remember, a corporation is separate. So Joe Smith is separate from Smith Printing. So Joe Smith can own 100% of Joe's printing. He decides that he wants to raise money. He needs money for new equipment. He says, all right, I'll sell you, Edgar, 20% of the business for $400,000. You say, yeah, that's a great deal. So now you've purchased 20% of the business. So Joe now owns 80% and you own 20%, but the business now has $400,000 more to use. Is that okay? Is it clear? Anybody else? So you got to get into the framework of thinking about a sole proprietorship and a partnership as being the person. If Astrid forms a sole proprietorship or a partnership, if Astrid forms a sole proprietorship, that business is her. If Astrid and Edgar form a partnership, that business is them. If Astrid formed a corporation, that business isn't her. That business is separate from her. You're creating another human being called Astrid. So call them Astrid 1 and Astrid 2, or Edgar 1 and Edgar 2, or Taylor 1 and Taylor 2. But you got to think of it as if you're creating a whole separate entity, a whole separate you when you form a corporation. Is that a little bit clearer? Everybody? All right, that's where I'm going to end it. I'll pick it up on Friday where we left off. Is everybody okay? Okay, again, this has been recorded, so if you want to watch this again, awesome. If somebody missed it, they can watch it. Have a great day. Have a great I'm guessing this is the first day of class.